Today feels like a good moment to talk about New Year's resolutions and plans, but in a slightly different way. Not as a checklist of things we have to accomplish, but more as something that can gently help us find our direction throughout the year. Lately, it feels like everywhere I look, there's this quiet pressure telling me I need to be a better version of myself, more productive, more successful, more everything. Like I need to have the perfect plans, the perfect expectations, and somehow turn all of that into reality in 365 days or less. So if you ever felt that New Year's resolutions bring more pressure than motivation, stay with me. I remember years ago, back when I was still at university, I started keeping a journal. And in this journal, I wrote my, back then I actually still called them New Year's resolutions. It wasn't anything complicated, just a simple notebook where I wrote down a few sentences. And then throughout the year, I would write, sketch, draw about all kinds of things and moments. My resolutions were very simple, things I know I would reach naturally, just by showing up and doing the work. And that's what made it fun and special. It brought me joy. It gave me the gentle sense of direction. Somehow, over time, we got used to the idea that a new year has to come with big goals, big changes, and the perfect version of ourselves. But the truth is, life rarely follows a perfect plan. Over the years, I found a way of planning that truly works for me. A way that doesn't put pressure on me, but actually supports me and keeps me moving. So this year, or whenever you're watching this, you can join me in a calmer, more relaxed way of planning your life. I choose to look at plans as a guide, not as a rules, not as promises I have to keep, otherwise I've somehow failed. For me, plans are like a map. They show a direction, not an obligation, not pressure, and not a fixed path I have to follow. They leave space for life, for change, for moments I couldn't have planned even if I tried. What feels like the right direction in my life right now can shift at any moment. Maybe I once imagined something that later, because my direction changed, no longer makes sense for me, or no longer carries the same meaning. And that's okay. January feels like the only time of the year that asks nothing from us. I would describe January as this white, empty universe, soft, quiet, and timeless, like being wrapped in a soft cashmere clothes and resting on an endless clouds of cotton. This is how I see January. And because of that, it feels like the perfect moment to reflect on your life before the world wakes up and begin to demand your attention again. So, what does this actually look like in practice for me? For me, it starts very simply. Before I plan anything, write anything, or do anything, I take time. This actually almost always takes a few days. When I know roughly what I have in mind, then I sit down with my notebook and a cup of coffee. my laptop in front of me, in my favorite winter cozy spot. The first questions I always ask myself are, how do I feel right now? And how do I want to feel in the future? I ask this because I've learned something important over the years. There were times when I achieved exactly what I thought I wanted, but still didn't feel good. That's because I didn't actually wanted that thing at all. I just thought I do, because I didn't ask myself the right questions. Once you figure that out, the next question comes up. What do I want in the future? And here you can absolutely say nothing. I'm happy exactly where I am. And honestly, that's amazing. You can simply close the notebook, smile, and say, enjoy the moment. But usually it's not that simple. We often have wishes and goals in different areas of life. But for every single thing you write down, there is a few very important follow-up questions. Why do I want this? How will this change my life? What will it give me emotionally? I once had an amazing job at a small company when I was still at university. When I finished school and moved, I also changed my job. For years, I thought I wanted that same job again. And eventually, I found something very similar somewhere else. But that's when the real disappointment came. I realized I never wanted the job itself. What I wanted was the environment, the people, the feeling I had in that place. And that realization changed everything, because it leads to the question we all come back to again and again. What truly makes us happy? Over the last few years, I've mostly created visual boards with photos. For me, they are incredibly powerful, because when I look at a board, I immediately feel what I was trying to express. That's why choosing the right images matters so much. And if you're writing, choosing the right words matters just as well. I'll give you a personal example. 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer, and the healing process took a long year. Before that, I was extremely athletic person, full of energy, always moving, very connected to my body. I'm now on a journey to reconnect with that part of myself again. But no matter how much I force myself, or how much I want to get back into the same shape I was in back then, life just doesn't allow me to. That's why I've had the same visual board for the second year now. And this board of mine is not filled with images of perfectly athletic people like I was before. I also don't even put any of my past photos on. Instead, I choose images of someone smiling on top of a mountain, happy to have made it to the top, or someone simply enjoying a bike ride. Because what I truly want is the feeling I had back then, when I was still doing all these things. I don't need a board full of images that makes me feel guilty. I need something that gently pushes me forward and makes me happy even when I notice just a small changes. The same goes for words. Choose words that motivate you, that bring you joy, that makes you want to move forward. And of course, you're always allowed to change your plans. You're definitely allowed to grow out of them. It's not a failure to choose a different direction. Even if you were once very sure about where you were going, life changes. We change. And what made sense for you a year ago, or even a few months ago, might not make sense anymore. That doesn't mean you failed. It simply means you listen to yourself. Plans are not there to control you, they are there to support you. And if something no longer fits, you don't have to force it. Maybe the plan did its job to help you understand yourself better. So be kind to yourself. Let your plans breathe and trust that you don't need to have everything figured out to be exactly where you need to be. And maybe one last reminder, not every routine you see online needs to become your routine. Just because something is presented as the path to success doesn't mean it suits you. Success doesn't come from copying someone else's schedule, morning routine, or perfectly structured day. It comes from understanding yourself. What works for you? What supports you? What makes you feel good? Not just productive. You need to build your own version of success. One that fits your life, your energy, and the season you're in. So take what resonates, leave the rest, and trust that you already know more than you think. You just have to listen to yourself. I'd love to hear how you approach planning or what success means to you right now. Leave the comment down below. Thank you for being here with me. Have a lovely day and see you in my next one. Bye.